Hey, fellow Bible geeks, we've been diving into this intriguing concept called undesigned coincidences that sheds light on the historical authenticity of the Bible. As a quick refresher, an undesigned coincidence is when different authors' works unexpectedly line up, confirming they're both likely true. One source might casually mention a detail that answers a question raised by another account. It's like finding puzzle pieces that fit perfectly together. This kind of thing doesn't normally come from made-up stories. It's a sign of real, detailed history. Be sure to go back and watch the playlist in the description for more details. Alright, since it's Easter, I thought it would only be fitting if we would discuss a really cool example of an undesigned coincidence from the story of Jesus' resurrection. So, in John's Gospel, there's this part where Jesus spends a lot of time with his followers after he's raised from the dead. In one scene, they're all hanging out by the Sea of Galilee, eating together and having a big talk. They're just hanging out after breakfast when Jesus looks at Peter and asks him a hard question. Let's read John 21:15-17. It says, "When they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, 'Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?' He said to him, 'Yes, Lord, you know that I love you.' He said to him, 'Feed my lambs.' He said a second time, 'Simon, son of John, do you love me?' He said, 'Yes, Lord, you know that I love you.' He said to him, 'Tend my sheep.' He said to him a third time, 'Simon, son of John, do you love me?' Peter was grieved because he said to him the third time, 'Do you love me?' And he said to him, 'Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you.' Jesus said to him, 'Feed my sheep.'" This might seem a bit tough of Jesus, right? He's kind of bringing up that time when Peter denied knowing him, which you can read about in John 18:15-27. But why does he specifically ask Peter if he loves them more than the others? When he says, "Do you love me more than these?" Peter's like, yeah, Jesus, you know that I love you. But he doesn't exactly say he loves Jesus more than the others. Jesus has always been about unity among his disciples, telling them not to compete with each other. So why would he push Peter to compare his love to the others? So looking back in John's account, Peter does express this strong commitment to stick with Jesus, even saying he'd go so far as to die for him. And you can read about that in John 13:37-38. But John doesn't really show Peter comparing his love for Jesus to that of the other disciples. It's kind of a mystery why Jesus brings it up after raising from the dead. The explanation that we're looking for comes from Matthew and Mark. They mention Peter not just saying that he died for Jesus, but also insisting that even if all the other disciples bailed on Jesus, he would never ever do that. Let's read Matthew 26:31-35 for the details. It says, "Then Jesus said to them, 'You will all fall away because of me this night, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I am raised up, I will go before you to Galilee.' Peter answered him, 'Though they all fall away because of you, I will never fall away.' Jesus said to him, 'Truly I tell you, this very night, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. Peter said to him, 'Even if I must die for you, I will not deny you.'" Ah, gotcha. It seems like Jesus zeroes in on Peter with these questions later, and not only because Peter denied knowing him, but also because he boasted that his love for Jesus was stronger than all of the others. Okay, imagine for a sec that Jesus didn't actually rise from the dead, and that the whole breakfast scene by the Sea of Galilee was completely made up. Why would the Gospel of John include this convo that hints at an earlier event, even though John's Gospel didn't tell that earlier story? It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense from a storytelling angle. See, if somebody's writing a story with callbacks and hints, they usually include all the important stuff in that fictional tale. Likewise, if the author of John wasn't too concerned about historical accuracy, and he was just including a legend that had developed within the Christian community, it would make sense for them to include Peter's boast, which clarifies this aspect of the legend. That would explain why Jesus questions him later on. They might even make it super clear how these two stories connect. On the flip side, if the author of John was one of Jesus' disciples and recalled the conversation firsthand, his purpose in writing wasn't necessarily to create a highly polished literary piece or a series of legendary tales. Instead, as a faithful witness, he simply recorded what was said as he remembered it without fussing over every detail to explain exactly why Jesus said this or that. Now, here's what's really interesting. This story isn't some quick glimpse or a fuzzy vision. It's a solid, down-to-earth encounter with Jesus and his crew after he rose from the dead. I mean, we're talking about Jesus cooking up some fish and sharing a meal with them. They're having a full-on conversation about all kinds of stuff. Now, if the disciples were telling the truth about what really went down, then they couldn't have just made a mistake, right? I mean, either they straight up lied, or they had this super unlikely, vivid group hallucination where they experienced the same thing at the same time, including eating fish. Or, maybe they were just telling it as it actually happened. This is not the kind of thing that you could easily just get mixed up about. I hope you've enjoyed this series on undesigned coincidences. In my next videos, I'll check out more evidence that's like these neat little coincidences that we've been talking about, but this time, I'll show how the Gospels fit together with stuff in history outside of the Bible. Make sure you subscribe, click the bell, and stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching.